I'll be sharing my screen so that we can get started. Is everyone able to see my screen? Please confirm in the messages if you can see my screen.
Then I think you use two devices, phone and laptop, so you can mute one of them so that sound doesn't come out.
Yeah, thank you.
Using two devices, so it's either using the laptop or also the phone, so you can mute just one of them.
Okay, thank you. So is everyone ready so that we can start? So we'll be starting, and welcome to Advanced Excel class. And today
You can mute the phone and then use the laptop as for the sound projection.
Pardon? Oh, so is everyone hearing me? You can type in the messages so that we can start. So welcome to Advanced Excel. Excel is one of the most used and popular tools for data analysis as well as business intelligence. It is widely used in every industry by almost every team of analysis, and Excel is a great starting point for learning data and analyzing data. So this course will be covering how to reshape, transform, analyze and visualize data. We'll focus on analyzing, transforming data with functionality from the ribbon in Excel. We'll discuss what the ribbon is in a few. We'll focus on analyzing and transforming, and we'll review common Excel functions that can help us with our analysis and transformation of our data. We look at how to reshape and structure our data, preparing for and conducting a more robust analysis with Excel and pivot tables. We will explore features of modern Excel analysis, supercharged data analysis with the linked data types, and dynamic arrays. So Excel is a spreadsheet program developed by Microsoft. So there was a question that somebody was asking about WPS. Now we will be using Excel, that is produced by Microsoft. And Excel typically organizes data in columns and rows and allows you to do mathematical functions. So on my screen here, above we have the ribbon, and below we have a sheet. So the ribbon provides shortcuts to Excel commands, and a command is an action that allows you to make something to happen. So can say inserting a table or clicking here on the power pivot. So the ribbon at first might look hard to understand, but don't get scared. You'll get used to it as we go. And since most of the time we'll tend to use the same function over and over again, these things will come to be easy. So under the ribbon, we have tabs, groups, and commands. And under the tab is a menu with the subdivision sorted into group. So here on our ribbon, we have the home tab, the insert tab, the draw, the page layout, formulas, up to the power pivots. Those are what we call the tabs. So the tabs allows us to quickly navigate between option of menus with to display different groups of functionality. So a group is a set of related commands, and these groups are separated with vertical lines. So under the home tab, we can see we have different groups. The clipboard here is a group, the font here is a group, alignment is a group, and these groups are separated using a vertical line. This is a vertical line that separates a clipboard and a font. Another line that separates the fonts with the alignment. So within these groups, we have commands, and a command typically is a button that you use to do actions. And after that is said and done, we can get to know about what a sheet is and how a ribbon and a sheet are related. So a sheet is a set of rows and columns, and it is below our ribbon here. A sheet has rows and columns, and it performs a pattern as we have in mathematical exercise books. But the patterns here are rectangular, and these rectangular boxes where we input our data, we call them cells. And inside these cells, we can input text, values, or numerical values. Are we together up to there? Anyone with a question, you can type in the message. And let's start analyzing our data. So in analyzing our data, we look at some common ways to analyze data in Excel. We'll use a combination of features from buttons on the ribbon to popular Excel functions. We'll go through different examples to see how we can do a few different things. We look at how to sort and filter our data, how to apply conditional formatting to our data to communicate insight clearly. We'll use some popular Excel functions for conditional logic and mathematical formulas. So by the end of today, we'll have tackled different suites of analysis available in Excel. So let's start with sorting and filtering. And on our screen, we have a small data set. For those who are following through, you can click on the sheet written analyze so that you can do this together. So on our screen, we have a small data arranged in columns and rows. We have the category column, the product column, store column, with their respective volume, price, and costs. We have rows, category A and category B. So a common part of exploratory data analysis is sorting and filtering our data. And some may ask what exploratory data analysis is, or in short, EDA. So EDA refers to method of studying and exploring data to understand their predominant traits, to discover patterns, locate outliers, and identify relationship between variables. So EDA is normally carried out as a preliminary step before undertaking extra analysis. Hope you are together up to there. We'll start by sorting our data, and I'll start by defining what sorting is. And sorting is any process that involves arranging data into some meaningful order to make it easier to understand and to look at. So in our example, I can highlight the volume column, and I'd want to sort it. So the sort and filter is under the home tab. Click on the home tab, and to our extreme right there is sort and filtering. You can click sort and filtering, and you can sort our volume column from smallest to largest, or from largest to smallest. So on my end, I'll sort it from largest to smallest. It brings a pop-up. Let's just sort it. And as you can see, our data has changed, and we have arranged our volume, the data in our volume column, from our largest to smallest. So we can sort both numeric columns and text columns. So our store here is a text column. Let's highlight it, and we can also sort it. We can sort it from A to Z, or the reverse alphabetical order, Z to A. So let's arrange it to A to Z and say sort, and our data is arranged. Our data is arranged in alphabetical order from A to Z. Are we together? So Eric, are you following? Yes, Stella has confirmed that we are together. Alvin is saying he is having a different data set. Can everybody confirm if what they are seeing on my screen is the same with what they have in theirs? So Alvin, have you been able to sort the issue out? Oh, so let's go back to our class. As I was saying, we can sort both numeric columns and the text columns. So I'll just repeat that because I was interrupted. So we can sort this back to Z to A, sort. And something that we notice is that once that I sort one column, the rest of the columns change, and this is because our columns are continuous. If I was ever to insert a new column here between cost and price, I'll insert a column there, and let's say I sort the volume column. Let's sort it from smallest to largest. You can sort. You see the rest of the columns from price to category changes, but the cost does not change. This is because there's our data is not continuous. There's a empty column here that disrupts the continuity of our data. So to prevent losing the sorting order that we are creating, we can use a custom sort. And the custom sort, we define a set of rules for sorting our data. So we can click on the volume, go back to our sorting and filtering, and click on custom sort. And you can see a pop-up here where we can sort our volume and sort on the self values, and you can sort it from say largest to smallest. There's a question by Ronnie. I think he cannot see whatever you are doing on the sheet on the screen. You can see. Is it because my sheet is let me cancel. Is it because my sheet is let me zoom in. So Ronnie, can you see? Can you see what I'm doing on my sheet? Ronnie, can you please confirm you can see so that you may proceed? Is everyone able to see my screen?
Daniel, I'm lost. Where are we?
We are on analyze. You see on the data, click on the analyze sheet. If you can see what I'm doing, can you please comment on the message there? So Muchiti, have you gotten where I was, or am I too fast?
Sure.
Yeah, on the analyze, that's where we are doing our sorting and filtering. And I was, yeah, you can unmute. You can mute your microphone. Yeah, so we can proceed. So as I was saying, we can apply custom sort to our data, and through custom sort. Okay.
Excuse.
Yes, Eric.
Does it have that this analyze this one down here?
The sheet.
Yes, for analyze and for conditional login. Those ones. How will I add?
So let me resend. Let me resend the document so that you can open it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've sent the data in WhatsApp. Is everyone else having the same problem? So that we may proceed. You can confirm it in the messages. So the silence, I may assume that everyone is clear on their end, so we may proceed. We were sorting the store, and we were to apply the custom sort. And as I was saying, under the custom sort, we can define a set of rules for sorting data. So let's click on the volume, data, and on our home tab to extreme right, we click on the sorting and filtering, and then we go to the custom sort.
Daniel.
Yes.
I think because of the interruptions, you may just repeat from sorting, like so that there's been interruptions here.
Okay.
You can just repeat like this from the start, like about sorting, so that those who interrupt may be on the same page.
Okay. So yeah. So as I was saying, sorting is a process that involves arranging our data into some meaningful order to make it easier to understand. So we can sort, say, our volume column here. So the first step is to select the volume data, and under our home tab to our extreme right, there's the sorting and filter button. You click on it and we have an option to sort our data from smallest to largest, or from largest to smallest. So I will click on here, smallest to largest, and I say sort, and we have been able to sort our data from smallest to largest. As you can see, our data is arranged from 28 down to 91. Are we together up to there? So in addition to sorting our numeric data, we can also sort our text column, and we can select our store, which is one of our text data. Click on the sort and filtering, and you can arrange the data there from A to Z or Z to A, and I'll click A to Z. And there we have been able to arrange the stores from A, B up to F. So as we sort our data, okay.
Daniel, sorry for interrupting. Yeah?
Yes, Joseph.
Once you click on the sort, you have options whether to expand the selection or continue with the current selection. So how do we use them? Expand selection and continue with the current section.
Okay, thank you for the question. So once I select, say, the volume column here and click on the sort and filter, and we want to arrange our data again from the largest to the smallest, there's a pop-up that comes up and it says Microsoft found data next to your selection. Since you have not selected this data, it will not be sorted. But Microsoft gives us an option if we want to expand the selection or we want to continue with our selected section. So both ways are not wrong. I can say expand the selection, and once I choose that option, the whole data is being sorted, and I'll demonstrate. If I click here on sort, you see the whole of our data changes. If I repeat again and select the sort and filter and arrange our data again from smallest to largest so that you can bring this pop-up, and select continue with the current selection, and we say sort, it's only the volume column that changes. So that's the difference between the two options. Is that clear, Joseph?
Thank you. When do we use them?
So that is a subjective question. You as a data analyst, you are the one who will choose what to do with your data. Okay? Okay, Joseph? Yes, you can choose the preference that you want. So let's continue. Is there any more question before I proceed? So the silence, I'll assume that we can proceed. As I was saying, so under the question that Joseph asked about the whole sheet where the sorting affects the whole data, to prevent that, we can use the custom sort. And under the custom sort, we can define our own rules. So let's click on the volume, hit on sort and filtering, and on the custom sort, we can define some rules. We can define some rules and also add some levels. We can delete, copy according to what you are doing with your data, and here I want to add let's sort the store too, and we want to sort our volume from largest to smallest, and we want to arrange the store from Z to A and say okay, and we have sorted the store and the volume. Is everything clear? Am I clear? So somebody is saying that if you're not using your microphone, please mute it. I'm the one who is allowed my microphone to be on continuously, unless you have a question. So we may proceed to filtering now that we have sorted our data. So sometime we may want to filter some of the values of each column, and by filtering helps us in displaying relevant data by eliminating irrelevant entries temporarily from view. And to filter our data, we'll click one of the columns here, and under our home tab, to again sort and filtering, we can hit on filter, and you can see there's a drop down that comes up and populates along our data, and this is what will help us to filter our data. So under the store, we may want to filter our data, and under here select all, we can unselect it, and we want only to display store A in our data. We click on store A and say okay, and the data that is being viewed is only for store A. We can also select multiple stores. Say we want to see store A, store D, and store F. We click on that and say okay, and we can display store A, D, and F. And to see that we have filtered our data, there will be always an icon that shows here next to the store data and shows that we have filtered our data. We can clear the filter by hitting the filter, clear filter from store, and we are back to our previous data. So George is saying that the data he has is different. I have sent the same data to our subgroup. You can download it and set it up. So let's proceed. Now that we have filtered and unfiltered our data, another option we have for filtering the data is conditional filter. It's a question. Alvin, please check on the data, and if the data is good, you can confirm so that we may proceed. Is there any question about filtering before I proceed to conditional filter? Yes, Wisdom, you can ask. Unmute your mic.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I still can't filter I can't still even sort my data.
You can?
I can't sort my data. When I press the home button to the sort and filter, the sort and filter is still not clear. Like it cannot be. I cannot sort any data. I'm just clicking at the volume. When I press the home button, I can't sort of it.
So Wisdom, before you sort your data, make sure you have selected the data that you want to sort.
Yes, I've selected the data.
and then go to the sorting and filtering, and select one of the options you have there. If you want to sort from alphabetically, if that is for the text columns, or if you want to sort numeric data, that's from largest to smallest. Have you done that?
Yes, but I still can't sort it.
There's somebody asking, have you enabled the editing in your document?
Yes, let me confirm.
Confirm.
Yes, it's enabled.
And you can still not be able to sort your data.
Yes, yes.
Maybe Wisdom, you can share your screen so that we see the problem.
Okay.
Okay, Daniel, you can stop sharing for a minute, then Wisdom shares and then.
Can you be able to see my screen?
No. Is everyone able to see Wisdom's screen? Wisdom,
Can you see my screen right?
no.
You can't even see him, even. Yeah, now,
Can you see my screen?
You are presenting, but your Excel table is not. Oh, okay.
You can see it.
Yeah. Click on Enable Editing.
Where is it?
You see where it has been written Protected View, and then there's a sentence next to it. There's Enable Editing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Enable Editing. Click on Enable Editing. Wisdom.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Fine.
Show me the steps that you are using to sort your data. Wisdom. Wisdom, are you still there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, show me how the steps for sorting.
Let me.
Okay.
When I saw it.
Sort. Click on the sort.
So you can.
So let us continue. I'll reshare back my screen. So there is a question by George. Can you see my screen before we proceed?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. I hope you have answered. Wisdom, you have been able to see how to sort.
Yes, I'm fine.
So there's a question by George. You said you're not be able to sort numerically, and I'll demonstrate again using the, say this time, the price column. So select the all of the, pardon?
The price.
Yeah. So once you've selected the price, let me zoom my data a little. Once you've selected the price, hit the sort and filter, and the option that you are provided for sorting numerical values is to arrange your data from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, and you can hit on either option. For me, I will sort it from smallest to largest and say continue with the current selection, and I'll sort. And I'll sort it, and you can see the results. Have you been able to do it yourself?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So is there any more question before we continue with the filtering? Yeah, so the silence means that you can proceed. So as I was saying, filtering helps us in displaying relevant data by eliminating irrelevant entries temporarily from view. And to enable filtering, you can click on one of the columns, head to the sorting and filtering, and hit on and hit the filter button, so that you can have a drop down here which will help you to filter your data. And now say I want to filter my product column. I'll hit on that, and I only want to display product 4. I'll say okay, and only product 4 is being displayed. To remove the filter, I hit on the filter function here and say clear filter. Are we together?
No. You repeat a bit. Repeat.
For the filtering.
Yes, for the filtering.
Okay. So I'll go back a bit. There. So that we can apply filtering, say let's click on the product column, and under the home tab to our extreme right there's a sorting and filtering button. Click on it and hit filter. So once you've done that, there's a drop down menu that displays itself at the headers, and this is what will help us to filter our data. So let's say we want to filter the store column. Hit on the drop down and select all, and say we want to display only store A. You click on store A and say okay, and only store A values are displayed. Is that okay, George?
When I press filter, I'm not seeing anything.
Can you please share a screen?
Okay.
Let me stop presenting. George, are you having some difficulties?
Yeah, I'm having some difficulties here and there.
Yeah, please display your screen so that we can help you before we proceed to conditional filtering. George, are you okay?
Let's continue with your screen, man. Problem it is not.
Okay, so the class will be recorded and we'll share the recording. So you will just repeat it by your own after the class. Okay?
I think you can continue so that that one will be sorted when the class is done.
Okay. So so on my screen we have sorted our store to display only store A. To unfilter, I click on there and clear the filter from store. And now we can proceed to conditional filtering. So another option we have for filtering the data is conditional filtering on a column. And let's say I want to filter our volume column. I'll hit on the drop down and say to
Daniel,
apply.
you're speaking on a muted mic. Sorry.
I'm sorry for that. So we want to apply conditional filtering to our data. And to do that, we'll demonstrate using the volume column. And I'll hit on the drop down. And we go to the number filter. And we want to display values that are greater than. And say we want to display the values of our volume that are greater than 60. I'll input there 60 and say okay, and our data changes and the values that are displayed are the values that are greater than 60. I can undo that. I'll clear the filter and demonstrate once again with the price column. Hit on the drop down and you will see number filters, and you want to display values that are greater than. Say we want to display values that are greater than, say, 30. I'll write 30 and say okay, and we display the price that are greater than 30. Is there a question? If you have a question, you can raise your hand before we proceed to conditional formatting. Yes, Stella.
Kindly repeat. I'm sorry. Kindly, please.
Okay. So I will undo this filter button here. So to do conditional filtering on our data, we hit the drop down here. Let's say we are using the volume. Hit the drop down here and we'll see number filters. So we want to display values that are greater than. We click on greater than and we want to display the volumes that are greater than, say, 40. You say 40 and say okay, and our data changes and we are able to display values that are greater than 40 on our volume column. So is that okay, Stella?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah.
Question. How do we trigger those drop down?
Okay. To trigger these drop downs, I'll just go back to our data where we didn't have those drop downs, and I'll zoom my screen so that you can see properly. To trigger the drop downs, you just click on one of the columns. On our home tab to extreme right, there's the sort and filtering. Click on it and click on filter, and the drop downs will appear, which will enable you to filter your data. So we want to filter our store data to display only store A and store D. You click on those check boxes and say OK, and now we have been able to filter our data. Is that okay, Nathan?
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So thank you for the questions. So next, we want to look at conditional formatting. And so let me first clear this filter. And so we can make insight from our data really pop visually by using conditional formatting on our data. So this feature builds on the concept of sorting our data. So we want to use the volume column again to do conditional formatting, and I will select my data. Under the home tab, there's the conditional formatting button, and I'll click on it, and I want to apply data bars to the volume column, and I will place a solid fill to it. Click on the solid fill, and you see that we have displayed something visually, some bars, and the higher values are denoted where the bars are high, and the low values are denoted where the value is low. So there's a question, you can click on the columns and or select the whole data. Okay, yeah, that's true. So are we on the same page there on conditional formatting? You can type yes on the messages.
Repeat that conditional filtering.
Yeah, to apply conditional formatting to our data, we can select, say, the data and the volume column, and hit on the conditional formatting button. And on our data, we want to display data bars. I'll go and click on the data bars, and under the data bars, we have a solid fill and a gradient fill. We want to apply solid fill. We say OK, and that's how we do conditional formatting on our data. Is that okay, George?
Yes, that is okay. It's okay.
Yeah, Stella, you have a question. You can unmute your microphone and ask. Stella. Stella, you have a question or you're okay?
No, yeah, I'm okay. I just wanted that clarification.
Okay, thank you. So in addition to adding data bars, we can also add color scales to our data. And color scales is also a method of conditional formatting, and we'll apply it on the price column. So once again, we select our data, go to conditional formatting, and we want to add color scales. We can add color scales and click. You can click here, and we have added our color scales. So the highest value, that is 42.12, is denoted by a green color, and our lowest value, which is 1.79, is denoted by a strong red color. Are we together? Yeah, somebody is asking, what is the relevance of conditional formatting? So conditional formatting is used to make our data to pop visually. It's like you're adding a visual representation to our data. Is that clear, Ondegi? Yeah. So we also want to add color scales to our cost column, but we want to do it on reverse, where the red color will denote the higher values and the green color to denote the lower value. So we'll click on conditional formatting on color scales. We choose the next and click it here. As I have said, the red value denotes the higher values. The red color denotes the higher values and the green color denotes the lower values. So, and since we know that when a cost is high, it's more of a red flag, and when it is low, it is more of a green flag. So so the purpose of this conditional formatting, we have to make sure that we communicate correctly visually with our data. That's an additional advantage about conditional formatting. Are we okay up to there? So there was a question, somebody asking how we can undo our data. So above our ribbon here, there's the undo. You can click on it and you can undo your data. And also there's a shortcut. You can click on Control Z and that undoes the action you have done on our data. So I hope that it's clear. So just like sorting and filtering, we can define our own rules while using the conditional formatting. So using this cost column, we can demonstrate that. Let's undo it. And as I've said, to undo something, you press Ctrl Z on your keyboard or this back button here on top of our ribbon. We want to apply conditional formatting on our data, and I'll demonstrate it using the cost column. So we can select our data. There's a question. We can select our data, click on conditional formatting and highlight cell rules, and we want to return values that are greater than, say we want to return the costs that are greater than 30, so we input 30 and say okay, and we'll denote it by a red light fill with dark red text, and you can change that according to your, you can customize it the way you want to. You can click here with the yellow fill with the dark yellow text, or any other option that you want. For me, I'll click on the light red fill with dark red text and say okay, and we'll be able to highlight the values that are greater than 30. So is there a question?
Pardon there on that rule.
On the cost column. George?
Yes, on the cost column there for rules, something also.
Okay. I'll just undo my conditional formatting. I'll press Ctrl Z. So to apply conditional formatting, first of all, we will select our data, go to the conditional formatting button and highlight cell rules, and we want to return values that are greater than, or you can say less than, between, to, equal to.
Unmute your microphone is muted, Daniel.
So to apply the conditional formatting, we can select our cost data here and then go to formatting and say highlight cell rules and say greater than, and you can also say less than, between two. It is your own choice that you want to do with your data. And I want to return values that are, say, greater than 30, and you can customize it the way you want to. For me, I'll use the light red fill with dark red text. You can use the yellow fill with dark yellow text. It is you who will choose. For me, I'll choose this one and say okay. And you'll see the values that are greater than 30 are being denoted with the red text with some red fill on the cell. Is that okay, George?
Yes, that's okay.
Okay. So if you want to update any of our conditional formatting that we have built so far, we can go to manage rules. And manage rules, we hit on the conditional formatting. At the bottom there is manage rules. You click on it and there is a pop-up. Up here they show formatting rules for current section, and I'll hit on it and say this worksheet. Click on it and we can see all the rules that we have applied on our sheet. The cells that are greater than 30, the graded color scale that we have applied, and also the data bars. So this pop-up will can help us to update these rules, apply new rules, and also delete. Say I want to delete this rule, I'll click on it and say delete this rule. Say apply and say okay, and the rule is deleted. So as a conclusion, we've seen we have a great flexibility to control and determine exactly what we can do with our data using conditional logic, and how formatting our logical should appear. So my screen, can everybody see my screen? Okay, let me repeat for Alvin. My screen was not showing on his side. We had applied a conditional formatting here on our cost column. I'll select the data, click on conditional formatting here and say greater than, and say we want to visually pop our data that are greater than 30. Say okay. So we can manage all the rules that we applied on this sheet. So click on conditional formatting and say manage rules. Click on manage rules. So on this pop-up, there's a instruction here, show formatting for rules 4, and we want to display all the rules for this worksheet. We say that
I think sorry, Daniel, I think the pop-up is not showing.
It's not showing.
Yeah. And it may be because just showing the Excel, the Excel, I don't know.
So let me change it.
You may change to show like the entire window, or maybe the entire screen.
So can you see my entire screen? So yeah, I'll undo that again. Select the values of our cost column and apply a highlight cells rules. Say greater than. Say we want to highlight rules that are greater than 30. You can say okay, and it has applied. It has highlighted the values that are greater than 30. So we want to manage the rules. So click on conditional formatting, manage rules, and showing formatting rules 4. We want to show the formatting rules for this worksheet. You can say okay, and you can see all the rules that we have applied on our worksheet. There's the cell value that is greater than 30. There's the graded color scales, and there's a data bar. So this pop-up will help us to add a new rule, edit the existing rules, and also we can delete a rule. Say I want to delete this rule here. I'll click on it and say delete and say apply and OK. And I've managed my rules. Is there a question? Is there a question? If we're okay, we can proceed. So that was all about conditional formatting and how we can use it to make our insight from our data really pop visually. And next we'll tackle conditional logic. So we have seen conditional logic in action with filtering our data and applying conditional formatting. Now let's see how we can analyze our data using functions that rely on conditional logic. And to start, I will start with the if function. So we can proceed to our next sheet and click on conditional logic, and we'll display some other data. Let me zoom my screen so that you can all see. So are we together? You can comment on the messages here if you are together, or hit like so that you can proceed. Yes, Victor has liked, so thank you. So let's start with our if function, and this function is common in all programming languages. So the if function contains a logical test, something to return if the logical test is true, and something to return if the logical test is false. And to input a function, we start by is equals and type if. Double click it and you see logical test, value if it is true and value if it is false. So in our data, we want to use the if function to build some conditional logic around whether to buy or sell a particular category in our item. Say if if a customer chooses category A, we say buy. If he has not chosen that, we say sell, and we'll apply it in our formula. We click on here. If cell A2 is equals to category A, say category A, then we will buy. Then we will buy. Otherwise, we will sell. You can close the parenthesis and hit enter. And we can populate our formula down by dragging our formula, and it populates. So where the category is A, we buy, and where the category is B or C, we'll sell. And we have done that using the if function. Is there a question before we proceed? Is there a question? So yes, the silence means that I can proceed. So currently we have only two conditions in the if statement. If the conditional test is true, pardon, mute your mic if you are not asking a question so that the rest can hear. Oh, Collins is asking how to come up with a sheet. Okay, I will show you. To add a sheet, down here there's a plus sign. You can click on it and you'll just add a sheet. You can click on another. If you want to add two sheets, you can click on it. Is that okay? Collins, I hope that is clear. So I will repeat about the conditional logic. I'll just delete this, all of it. So for the conditional logic, to start, we start by saying is equals here on our cell, is equals, and say if cell A2 is indeed category A, you open quotation marks and say category A, we will buy. If that condition is true, we say buy. If that condition is not met, otherwise we sell, and we close the parenthesis and we say is equal, we say enter, and we drag down our formula to populate. The if function is not a must you capitalize it, and I can demonstrate here. If I just say if, you can see it still displays. You can click on it here. So it is not a must that it can be capitalized. So are we on the same page? So the silence, I hope it means that we're on the same page.
Can you pardon when typing if A2 is equals, you're a bit fast.
Okay, let me repeat. Maybe I can do it on a separate column. We'll start with is equals, and the logic says if this cell A2 here is indeed category A, is equals to category A, open quotation marks, and we type if it is indeed category A, we tell it to return buy. If it is not category A, we say otherwise we should sell. Then you hit enter, and then populate the formula down, and it updates. So where in cell A the category is not category A, say here in category B we sell, and where it is category A we buy. Is that clear? Is that clear? Eric, do you have a question? Before we proceed, Eric, do you have a question? Okay, I will proceed. So currently, we have only two conditions in the if statement. If the condition is true, or if the condition is false. However, we can add more conditions by creating a nested if statement. And a nested if statement is when instead of defining a value for false, we can define another if statement inside the first one. So here, instead of saying sell, we can add another condition. So I'll delete sell and add another if statement. Click on it, and it opens brackets, and we say if category A, we click on cell A2 is equals to category B, we say sell, we say sell. Otherwise, you can say, you can say hold. Let's close the parenthesis, and we can update our formula by dragging it down there. So where the category is A, we say buy. Where the category is B, we say sell. And if the category is not A or B, we return hold. Is that clear before we proceed? Is that clear?
Question.
Yes, a question.
Are we using double parentheses or single?
Either can work, but make sure it is consistent. It is you to choose either single or double.
Okay.
So Collins is saying we repeat. Okay?
Repeat. Hey, kindly.
Okay. So let me repeat the nested if function. Say Control Z. So a nested function is a function, say, within a function. And if you want to add another nested if function here, we delete the cell and say add another if statement, and we say if category A, if cell A2 is equals to category B, category B, we say cell. And if it is not category B or A, we say hold. And we will make sure we have closed all the parentheses, and our formula updates, and I drag it down, and the logic applies. So if it is category A, we say buy. If it is category B, we say sell. If it is category C, we say hold. Is that clear? Joseph, are we together? Collins, are we together?
Yes.
So what this nested if function says, if category A is indeed, if this LA is indeed category A, we return buy. And if that cell A2 is indeed category B, we say sell, or otherwise return hold. Enoch, is that clear? So we may proceed. This method of nesting function is not too bad, and we have only nested only one if function, but there could be situation where we could keep on adding more and more conditional if statements, and this will make our formula be messy. So the function that we can use to replace the nested if function is the switch function. So rather than using the nested if function, an easier way to use is the switch function, and I will demonstrate. Let's start by inputting is equals and say switch. Click on it, and we say, we click on A2, we put a comma, we say it's category A, comma, add another quotation marks, we say category B. If it is category B, we sell. If it is category B, we sell, comma, otherwise we hold. So there's an error here in my formula, and I'll correct it. So if A2 is category A, we say by. Should add by here. Make sure you add a comma there. And we say okay, and populate this formula down. And we are receiving the same results as we have used with the nested if function. But the difference is, when we use the switch function, the formula is at least neat, and we can update it very well. Is there a question? So using the switch function makes our data we can make our formula to be easily read, interpret, and maintain, while our nested if function makes our function be at least complex and very hard to read. Are we together, everyone? So we can proceed to tackle the ifs and the if a little bit. So so far we have defined the conditional logic based on a single value. We've done it on our nested if statement as well as our switch statement on category A, B, and C. But we can build our conditional logic based on numeric columns, where we have lots of potential values. And here on our if statement, we can write another statement and say if, open parenthesis, if the cost is greater than, say 20, we return large. And if the cost is not greater than 20, we say small, and we close the parenthesis there. We say okay, and we populate our formula down. So there is a question, what is the difference between the command if and the switch? So both their conditional logic to apply to our data, they are both more the same, but the switch function, the difference comes here when we are nesting our if statements. Rather than nesting our if statements, we can use switch, which is an easier way to use rather than just putting the if statement in. Switch is an easier way to do it. So Colin say we repeat the switch function. His Wi-Fi was disconnected. Okay, I'll repeat it. Say switch. We can start with our is equal sign. Say switch. And the switch function says that if this in our cell A2, comma, is category A, we say by. We say by. If it is category B, we say sell. So otherwise, if it is not category A or category B, we return hold, and we close the parenthesis, and we make sure we populate our formula downwards, and there it is. Is that okay, Collins? Are we together? Brackets, sorry, brackets or quotation marks. I might have confused myself a little. Are we okay? So back to where we were. We were applying a logic here on a numeric column or cost column, where we were saying if the cost is larger than, where the cost is greater than 20, we return large. If not, we say small. And we have demonstrated that, and we will continue. If you want to create more complexity to the logic, we could once again create a nested if statement. We can update our formula here. Rather than saying small, we can input another if statement. You can say if our cost is greater than 5, we return, we say it's medium, our cost is medium. If not, we return small. Make sure we close our brackets and say okay. And let's update our formula by populating it downwards, and our formula updates. Are we okay up to there? Oh, Alvo is asking if it is a must to name the column switch. No, you can name it the way you want to name it, as long as you are getting what is going on. So we have used again our nested if function here while you are using our columns, our numeric columns. So this method again is not that ideal. So if we need to add more threshold into our function, our if statement becomes messy and difficult to read once again. So a function that we could use to replace the nested if statement like this is the ifs function. And the ifs function allows us to define multiple criteria and result, and I will demonstrate. Are we okay, or I'm moving too fast? Are we okay, or I'm moving too fast? Okay, Alvin has confirmed. So rather than using nested if function for numeric columns, we can use the ifs, and you can type here ifs. If our cost is greater than, say, 20, we return large. And if our cost is greater than 5, we say it is medium. And if our cost is greater than 0, we say it is small. And if our cost is less than or equal to 0, we return an error, because of course our cost cannot go below 0. And we close the brackets and we say okay, and we populate our function there. So it returns the same values, but the difference is using the ifs makes our function easier to read, maintain, and audit. Is there a question? By populating, George, I mean by dragging down our formula so that it can fill the columns. Alvo is asking. Yes, since this we have to, these things I've written here, large, medium, small, and error, they have to be inside quotation marks. This is because they are not defined within our Excel sheet. Is there more questions? If you are good to go, please click on an emoji so that you can proceed. Yeah, Priska has confirmed. Okay. So George, are we together? Collins is saying sure. Okay, George.
About populating downwards. Can you repeat there on your screen? I see.
Okay. Let me go back. Let me undo it. So when you have hit the formula, to populate, we need to drag this formula downwards so that you can fill the columns. So at the edge here, you just drag it down and you can populate it, and our formula updates. Okay. So Collins is asking to show how to demonstrate it on a new sheet and add the conditional statements. So Collins, in which part have you not understood? You can unmute your microphone so that we can hear you.
I'm asking, how do you like add a new sheet and you add the conditional statement with a set of new raw data instead of the one that you have already prepared?
Oh, okay. So as I have said earlier, to add a new sheet, down here there's a plus. You just click on it and you open a new sheet. And if you add another set of data which currently I don't have, you can still perform the same if statements and the switch on this sheet. Have I gotten your question well, Collins?
I'm asking, how do you add that data on the sheet, because I don't know how to add the data, and where do I get the if statements?
Okay, so what I'll do is let me just copy this data again. Say copy, and into our new sheet I'll just paste it. So this is the new data. Let's imagine this is the new data. This is the new data, and you can just say, let's apply the if function again. And to type a function, we start by an is equals. You say is equals and say if, and you see some function here lining up, and we want to use the if. We click on it and we say, for example, like we said at the beginning, if this cost F2 is greater than 20, we let it return large. Otherwise, if the cost is not greater than 20, we say small. We close the brackets there and just drag it down. we populate this formula down like this. Are we together, Collins?
Yes, we are.
Pardon?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. So in conclusion, I want us to tackle a little bit about the SUMPRODUCT function before we call it a day. And is there any more question before we go to the SUMPRODUCT function? Is there a question? Alvin, if you have a question, unmute your microphone and ask. Alvo. Ronnie.
Yes, if I use switch and if I'm getting an error, name error.
What type of error are you getting?
It's name error.
A name error.
Yes.
So it seems that there's something wrong with your formula, maybe the syntax. Kindly confirm if your spellings are correct and all that.
Okay.
Is there any more question? Is there any more question as we wait for Ronnie to solve his issue, the name error he has gotten? Joseph, you've been too quiet. Are you okay? Muchiti Joseph.
I'm stuck.
Where are you stuck?
The folder. Will you just go step by step?
Pardon, where?
I'm trying to put the formula. I just need to know how to put the formula because I'm putting it in into the cell and it's giving me a typing error.
It says a typing error.
Yeah, sure. So you say I'm here at if.
Okay.
So if the first one, if it's true, it is a cell A, right?
All right.
Then what are we supposed to put next? Is it a comma or what is it?
So let me demonstrate it again. You can mute your microphone.
Just go step by step so that we also get to know the small things there, the details.
Okay. You can mute your microphone. So let me do the if function here, just a simple one to show you how to input the formulas. So when you are starting to input a formula, you start with an is equal sign. And since we're using if, we say if. And our logic test is to test if cell A2 is equals to category A. So we open our quotation marks and say category A. After that, you put a comma. Make sure you have put a comma in your formula. So if it is category A, we buy. We put in buy. And if it is not category A or otherwise, we sell. And make sure you have closed the formula with another bracket here and say okay, and drag the formula down. We populate the formula down. Are you together, Joseph?
Yes.
Yes, make sure you have closed your brackets, you have put the quotation marks, and you have also put some commas. Okay, so that you cannot get any kind of error. Collins, unmute your microphone so that we can hear your question.
I don't have a question right now.
Oh, not you, Collins. There's Kasola Collins. Kasola. Kasola, if you can unmute, or I can read your question. Assume we change one of the cost values to be less than 0. Okay. I've gotten your question. Under here, it is on the ifs. So I have put that error because our cost cannot be negative 0. Let's say, let me edit a little bit our data here and say, and put negative, and let our cost be negative 9. Let's say okay. You see our formula is updated and there is an error. That is because this condition is fulfilled. There is a negative somewhere where it is less than 0, so it returns an error. Are we okay, Collins, Kasola?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it just depends with our data. So there's a question here by Alvin. He says, repeat on the syntax for the switch. Okay, I will demonstrate it on another sheet. It's a switch. And as always, to begin our formula, start with is equal signs and type switch and open parenthesis. Switch and open parenthesis. And we say for switch, our logical test is if A2 is indeed category A, we say we buy. And if it is category B, we should sell. Otherwise, if it is not category A or category B, we should hold. Close the formula and hit OK. And drag it down. And we have our results. So, Alvo, is that clear? Okay, that is clear. Any more question before we conclude with the sum product? You can raise your hand or type a question before we continue with our sum product. So yes, let's proceed. On our data, there's a sheet here called sum product. Hit on it. And that is what we are going to use for our sum product. I will zoom my data a little bit so that you can see. So the sum product function returns the sum of the output of multiplying two corresponding ranges together. So let's multiply the volume and the price, and then sum up the values to return the total gross profit. Again, we are going to type a formula. We are going to start with an is equal sign. Never forget about that. So we are to multiply the volume. You hit on the volume there, D2. Say multiply and add the price, which is E. Hit enter. It gives us our value and we populate it. downwards, and it fills. Are we together up to there? So, okay, George, ask your question.
Pardon. That group.
Can you be audible? I've not heard your question.
There on D2 there, so you're saying you multiply something. Now repeat there. Just that not
Okay. So let me undo that. So we want to type a formula whereby we want to multiply the volume and the price. So to type our formula, we begin with is equals. Never forget about that. And we want to multiply the volume, which is the 2. Multiplication is like a star, and then you multiply it with the price, and there it gives us that, and then we populate our formula downwards. George, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we want to again to do the sum of our
Excuse, you are going too fast. Please repeat.
Okay, for the gross profit, we wanted to multiply the volume and the price, and just undo it again, is equals to volume is the D2, we multiply it with the price, and then we say is equals, and then we populate our formula downwards. Is that okay, Collins?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So now we want to sum our gross profit, this column, and we'll use the sum function. Again, to type the sum function, we start with is equals and say sum. Here it is, double click it, and then click on here, and then drag it down, and then close our parenthesis, and we get our sum. Are we together? Joseph, are we together? Ronnie? Stella?
Yes.
Stella, are we together?
Yes. Yeah, we're together.
George, you've been quiet. Are you together? So yes, we were summing our gross profit, and we have gotten our value here. So rather than just using all that step that we want to multiply the volume, we multiply it with the price, and then we come down here, we add it. You see the process is long. We can just use the sum product function. We just input it here, say some product, and to do some product, we select the range of the values in the volume, and then comma, we put the range of the values in the price, close our parenthesis, hit equals, and we get the same answer using a very short method. Are we together? Joseph, are we together? So if you are together, just click on an emoji before we proceed. Yes, we are together. So for the sum product to work, we need to ensure that the input ranges have the same number of values that the volume and our price have. So let's say if our volume had more rows up to here to 12, and our price was up to year 11, our formula will not work. So that is a red flag to consider when using the sum product. We can use the sum product to do things other than return the sum of the product of ranges. We can also build conditional sum product formula. Before we proceed to that, is there a question before we do conditional sum product? Is there a question? So yeah, so for example, for a conditional gross profit, we may want to return the gross profit for a certain input store, say like store A, for example, and under here we will create an if statement that we want to do to return the product of the sum. If the value of the store column is equals to input A is here, which I have clicked on it here. Let me zoom so that you can see. If it is equals to input A, store A, we can return a blank, or we can return the product of volume and price. Are we together? And I will demonstrate it using an if statement. Say if our store A is indeed equals to our input store here, we should return the product of volume and the product of price. If not, otherwise we return a blank. And to denote a blank in Excel, we just import quotation marks without putting any data, and we close our parentheses and we say is equals, and we drag our formula down, and you see it only returns where our store here in C is equals to A. Is there a question before we proceed? Joseph, are we together?
Yeah.
I was hoping to get a question that there is an error with my formula. Wisdom, is there a question?
Pardon the conditional gross profit.
Pardon?
Pardon the conditional gross profit. The conditional gross profit. The formula of the conditional gross profit.
Okay, let me just undo that. So the condition is, we start by is equals. We say if, open our brackets, if here our store, which is C2, is indeed is equals to our input store. There's an input store down here at column J, row 14. If indeed the store is equals to this input store here, we return the product of volume and the price. Of the volume and the price. If that condition is not true, we return a blank, and I've said to denote a blank we use parentheses without inputting any data, and we close our formula and say enter, and we try to populate it. Are we okay? Collins is saying that some product is tricky. No, it's not that hard, because the idea around some product is to sum the product of our products in ranges, and I'll just demonstrate it again here for you to get it. So again, to start our function, we start by is equals. We start by is equals and type sum product. It's here on the drop down. Click on it, and we want to sum the product in the ranges of the volume. Yeah, we drag it, say comma, and then come to price, since we want to do the sum and the product of the price and the volume. Then close our parenthesis, and we have our answer. So Collins, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, Alvin, you'll get the class review. There's a recording of it. So let's continue. So there was an error with my formula here. We are not getting the exact the exact results that we are getting, and this is because we have not locked our input store here. We should add some $sign there, and that is what we call absolute referencing. And there we have updated where our store is A, there's some values, and where it is not A, we are returning blanks. Are we together up to there, Joseph? Muchiti, Joseph, are we together? Ronnie, Stella, George, Collins, Alvo, are we together?
I don't.
What do you want me to repeat?
Excuse.
Mm-hmm.
How do we
Can you please repeat the question?
How do we add the dollar value?
Nice. That was a very smart question. I was hoping to be asked that. And we are adding the $sign, because we are doing something that is called absolute referencing. And to add it easily, so let me undo that. To add those $sign easily, I'll just demonstrate it. To add your $sign easily, you place your cursor between the J and the 14 and hit on F4. Hit on F4 on your keyboard, and you have absolute referenced our column, and you can drag it to populate the results. Is that okay?
And also, I think there are those who might not be having the F4, or it can be having like a different format. You can just type it manually by clicking Shift and 4. So Oyaro Philip is saying Shift and 4. You can just click it manually, but you ensure that it's before J and after J.
Okay, let me try.
Yeah, try so that you can proceed. Have you done it?
Not yet.
Yeah, please do it so that you can proceed.
I should add it before J.
Place your cursor between J and 14 and press Shift F4.
Then I say enter.
Yes. Has it worked?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So any more questions? Any more questions? Zablon, I think your question has been answered, but to go back between J and 14, you place your cursor there and press Shift F4 and the dollar signs will appear. Is that okay? Okay, so let's proceed. So we want to sum. The conditional gross profit, and as I've said, when we start the formula, we start by is equals and we say sum, and then we just input this range of our values, and there we get our sum. Is that clear? Oh, there's a question by Zablon. Why are we adding the dollar sign? We are adding the dollar sign because we want to absolute reference the input store here, the store A. Is that clear, Zablon? Is that clear? Yeah, I think that is clear. And that's how we add our values, and that's how we use our sum product. So you can ask questions that you have. Yes. Before we close our class, Zablon is asking me to explain more about the absolute referencing. Yes, and I will just do that right now. I'll do that right now. So you see, cells in Excel have a unique reference, which always it is its location. So the reference are used in formulas, like how we have just done right now, to do calculation and fill functions that can be used to continue formulas, said sidewards or downwards. And before I proceed, we want to use the sheet called relative reference. So everyone can click on there. I want to demonstrate something. As everyone clicked on that sheet, there's a small example there demonstrating about absolute reference and relative reference. So I assume that everybody has clicked on that sheet. So references in Excel are relative by default, and by relative I mean they don't have a dollar sign. So relative references makes our cells free and gives the fill function freedom to continue the order without restrictions. So in our data here, I want to add the poke ball and the great ball. I'll just put is equals and say B2 and add it to C2. Hit enter. We receive a value and populate it down. We're able to populate it down because the cells are free, and this is because of the relative referencing. In addition to populating our data downwards, we can do it sideways, and we can drag this here on the sides, and our data populates without no problem. So is there a question about relative referencing before I proceed to the next one, the absolute? Okay, let me go to the absolute and demonstrate what absolute reference is. So absolute reference is when a reference has a dollar sign, as we have seen on our example. So it locks a reference in the formula, and the dollar sign is what helps us to do that. So in our data here, we have 6 trainers. There's Ivan, Liam, Pablo, Jenny, and Ben, and also Casper. They have different amount of poke balls, each on their shopping carts. Let's say they were doing a shopping, and the price of each poke ball is 2, and we want to calculate the costs, and you can do it this way. We add is equals, we click on the price which is on row B, column 11, multiply it by the price of the poke ball and say enter. We get a value. If we try to populate this, we get zeros, and this is because we have not locked the reference of our column B11 here. So that our formula can populate well, we have to add the absolute reference, the dollar signs that we have been talking about previously. I will add it here between B and 11, and I will hit, our F4, and our dollar signs appear, and we say okay, and we drag, and now we are able to drag our formula, and the values fill down. This is because we are absolutely referencing our column B11 here. Is there a question? Joseph, are you okay? Stella?
Yes.
Collins, are you okay?
Yeah, we are together. We are together.
Yeah, together. There's a question here before we conclude. The first, if you could, Amos, there's a recording. Unless you have an urgent question, you can ask. You can unmute your microphone so that you can ask, so that you can solve your problem. Amos?
Oh, no problem. Just wanted to see the formula.
Oh, okay. So if there are no further questions, so that was analyze, our topic on analyze. I know there was a lot of information. There's a recording to refer so that you can do your practice and try to hone the concept that you have tackled here. So the trick with these things is doing it on a daily basis. It's all about consistency, practice and practice and practice, so that this information can stick, and you can be a good in analyzing data. So is there any question before we conclude? Is there a question? Stella, do you have a question?
Well, I have a comment. I think today you are rushing too much. You are not even giving us time to practice. So kesho angalie juu unaenda kufanya hivi alafu napata usharuka the next thing, naenda kuandika kenye hiyo form ushapenda. Yani hiyo time ya kuandika kufanya practice kiasi behind ndo mekosa kiasi.
Okay, I'll be putting some pause so that I can allow you to be able to catch up with what I'm saying. So is there another comment, review? Eric?
Excuse, pardon the last statement.
The statement about?
That for $sign B11.
Okay. So let's go back to our data. So So I'll just input the formula again, which was to do the price, which was 2 cents multiplied by the price of pork ball, and say enter. So if you try to populate this formula, we receive zeros, and this is because we have not absolutely referenced our price column down here. And to do that, we need to add $sign on our B11. So between B and 11 here on our formula bar, just put your cursor there, between there, and press F4 on your keyboard, and the $signs appear. Eric?
Okay, thank you. I got it.
Yeah, so press enter and populate your formula. And it updates. So any more question before I hand over the mantle to Boniface? Okay, Boniface, you can take over.
No, I don't think I have any concern, but to just appreciate those who have joined in class, and see you tomorrow. So tomorrow we join earlier 6:20. Because by 6:30 there were a few people who had joined. I think around 15 or 16. So by 6:20, so that even your questions, as you do practice, are reviewed for the first 10 minutes. And I just to reiterate that all these things that you've learned, you can just go down again to them and ensure that you drill down on whatever you gain for today, so that you start tomorrow on having understood everything that was supposed to be covered today. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your practice after we have uploaded the video on YouTube.
So bye everyone. See you tomorrow as early as 6:20 to tackle the rest of the content. So bye.